Good Tuesday afternoon to everybody. Welcome to Randall's Weather Page. Thank you for joining me today. We take a look at the tropics, see what's going on with Paulette, Renee, and then make sure you stick around to the very end because we're going to be talking about the next one after that, which is Sally. And Sally's one we're definitely going to have to watch. So let's get into it. First off, make sure to go and subscribe. Go down, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and make sure that you're one of the first to get notified whenever new videos come out. Make sure to share it with your friends, your family, your coworkers. Make sure they subscribe so they are in the know. Remember, I don't put out hype. I just put out what the weather is doing. All right, we're through Renee. Next up is Sally, Teddy, Vicky, Wilford, and then we hit into the Greek alphabet. This is going to be a Greek alphabet year. There is no doubt. Let's get into the 5-day tropical outlook. And this nice little invest right here. I believe that's 94. And we'll get into that right off the bat, but we'll also get into Paulette, we'll get into Renee, and not even off the African coast yet. This is going to be Sally that comes off, unless this develops. And if that develops, then this will be Teddy. So we'll see which one ends up being Sally, which one ends up being Sally. Let's go into the water vapor, and we can tell right now here is Invest 94. Not much to look at, but some models are trying to develop it. It is moving from east to west, so it's moving towards the east coast. Paulette looking very good right now. There's Renee, and once again back here, yep, that's Sally or Teddy, depending on if this develops or not. Let's go look at the total precipitable water. You know I like the total precipitable water. Shows you where your twists are, your circulation is. There's your invest. Got a nice little twist to it. Nothing really in the Caribbean. Nothing really in the Gulf of Mexico. Paulette, who has a nice twist. Renee, who has a nice twist. And then either Sally or Teddy, whichever one this is up being, and this is the one that we're going to watch, and I'll show you why, because models are kind of hinting at something pretty big with this in the long term, okay, in the long term. Let's get into Invest 94. This is the GFS. These are the individual ensembles. Notice that the individual ensembles taking this up towards North Carolina. South Carolina, North Carolina can't seem to be trying to zero in on Wilmington or just north. But you got a pretty even split. If you look at the blue line, your blue line is your consensus, and it's kind of going towards Wilmington, North Carolina. So if I'm on the South Carolina coast or the North Carolina coast, I'm paying attention to Invest 94. Let's look at the diagnostic comparison and what they're saying possibly could happen. A lot of models that just keep it as a depression. You have two models, which that's the D-ship and that is the LGM, that move it up into tropical storm territory. We'll see. Right now, it could become a depression. I don't know about tropical storm. Don't know about tropical storm yet. The shear, as you go forward in time, shear drops. So that is showing that it could, it could develop because it is in a lighter shear environment, but then it starts moving back up. The shear does. The relative humidity is very good. Don't have to worry about that. And then your track right now, once again, your GFS has it just south of Wilmington. Your H Wharf has it coming up towards Wilmington. Your HMON, so your HMON and your H Wharf or hurricane models only takes it out to, basically it doesn't do much with it whatsoever. whatsoever. So that's your look at 94L. We'll keep a watch on it, because if this ends up becoming a tropical storm, it will be Sally or Teddy, depending on what happens with what's coming off the African coast. Let's go into Paulette. So as of 11 a.m., 65 mile per hour sustained winds, getting close to hurricane strength. It's picked up speed just a little bit northwest at 6 miles per hour. Yesterday it was at 3 miles per hour. But notice that the National Hurricane Center keeps this as a tropical storm. Doesn't develop it much more. Doesn't develop it at all. It stays as a tropical storm all the way out through Sunday. Notice about Friday to Saturday morning is when you start seeing the northern turn. Okay, heading towards Bermuda. Here are your ensembles. Okay, a lot to look at, but here's your starting point. Notice how most of the ensembles have this moving northwest and then taking a turn to north-northwest and then back out to sea. But notice a lot of the ensembles are still closer. It's on the west side of Bermuda. So we're really going to have to watch Paulette and see how far west she treks. Here is your global, plus your hurricane models. Most of them straight northwest through 120 hours. Okay, through 120 hours. This is your GFS tracks. So your GFS tracks, about 72 hours is when you start seeing a more north-northwest turn, but you still have some outlier tracks to the west. So we're going to have to worry that. And if it goes west, notice there's more that develop it into a stronger storm. This is your GFS parallel, the new version of the GFS. Once again, about 72 hours, it starts more of a north-northwest turn. But notice in the GFS parallel, it keeps it on that north-northwest turn. There's not a lot of turn back to the northeast, and you still have a lot of members that are west, still west. So the GFS is still, the GFS and the GFS parallel still has a lot of members west. The intensity model is showing that a lot of it keep it as a tropical storm, but notice your HMNI and your Cody have this going up to hurricane strength. Also your SIM2 briefly have this going up to hurricane strength, and notice your other hurricane model, your HWFI, take this down to a tropical depression and then move it back up, and it starts really strengthening it. And that's after hour 108. So some hints that this might actually turn into a hurricane, but right now the official guidance is for it to remain a tropical storm at least through 128 hours. This is a microwave image of Paulette, and this is really neat because you get to see the spin. It also keeps up with your Vmax, so your knots. Notice in the last couple of frames that Paulette is picking up in speed, not speed, but also wind speed, not overall speed. Notice a general track to the north. This is your latitude, how it's tracking north. And then this is your longitude. Okay, so it's tracking west and north. And notice how the last couple of frames, your feeder bands are coming in really well, your spin is really well, and then your winds are picking up. Okay, really neat view. Just shows you that Paulette in the short term has picked up some intensity, and has also picked up some latitude, so it has gone up in latitude. Right. Let's move on to Rene. Rene right now is a tropical storm, 40 mile per hour sustained winds, moving quicker, moving straight west at 16 miles per hour. Stays a tropical storm until Thursday morning, then turns into a hurricane, and then you have a straight turn to almost due north by Sunday. And Renee, by all models, looks like it is going to be a fish storm. Take a look at the ensembles. You have some ensembles that are moving this west, more towards Bermuda, but most of the ensembles are in agreement of a west, then to a northwest turn, then almost to a due north turn, and then to a northeast turn. So that's your ensemble models. Your hurricane plus global models, once again, west, but within 24 hours starts tucking northwest, about 72 hours starts turning more north, and then by 120 hours it's due north, starting to turn to the northeast. Your GFS on Renee is once again almost the exact same. West, turn northwest, turn north, turn northeast. And then your new GFS is a little more gentle turn, but overall by 96 hours it's due north, and by 144 it is a northeast track. Your intensity models does take this up. Your official takes it up to a hurricane strength. You have a lot of models that bump it up to hurricane, and then as it takes that northerly turn and starts turning northeast, it does drop in intensity back down to a tropical storm, with some even dropping it down to just a depression. So fish storm for Renee. This is a microwave image. Notice with the microwave image on Renee, the winds are steady. It is pretty much staying maybe a slight gain in latitude, longitude, moving almost straight west. But you can tell it does have a good spin to it. And then once it gets out away from the islands into sea, out into the Atlantic with very little shear where it's at, then it will develop. Okay, let's start taking a look at our long-term models. This is a European model. All right, Paulette, Rene. Let's look at Paulette. Paulette, the GFS still has it inside. Excuse me, this is the European model. Still has it inside to the west, just to the west of Bermuda. For me, as long as a major model has a Atlantic system and has it coming inside Bermuda, I always still watch out for Florida and the East Coast. Always, as long as it's inside Bermuda, it can switch. It can move west. It can move south in the long term. Remember, we're just looking for general locations when you get out past 120 hours. So my general location is somewhere in this area. So definitely still watching out for Paulette for the East Coast and Florida. Renee, let's go back and look at Renee. Renee moves to the north, pretty much disappears on the European. Let's look at Sally. Sally, oh wow. Sally starting to try to get into the Caribbean on the European model. So that's one model that shows Sally getting into the Caribbean. And then notice behind Sally, here's another one. Notice, there's another one. So, and then at this time, this is when the MJO, right now the MJO is in a negative phase over the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and now into the Atlantic. By the time we get past 120 hours, past 240 hours, the MJO starts turning favorable. Remember, a positive MJO pattern is where you have uplift in the atmosphere. When you have uplift in the atmosphere, it makes the atmosphere just ripe for thunderstorm development and for tropical development. So, the European model is on the wave train. This would be Sally, that would be Teddy, and this would be Vicky, according to the European model. Okay? Let's go take a look at the GFS model. Now, it's a longer run on the GFS. The European stops at 240 hours. The GFS goes all the way out to, I think, 384 or 386. But notice, what's that right there? That would be Sally. And look, and when you're out 300 hours and you have a major hurricane sitting right here, it'll catch your attention, won't it? Definitely catch your attention. This is that invest. Never really develops the invest on the GFS. Maybe a depression going in. Paulette, Renee, Sally, Teddy coming off, and then Vicky will be coming off behind it. All right, so that is your GFS. We'll let it run through one more time. Boy, Sally is just, so you have two models really developing Sally. Once again, invest, not much. Paulette, Renee, Sally, Teddy, Vicky. Well, let's look at Paulette. The GFS, the last couple of runs, has really not developed Paulette whatsoever. In fact, takes it down to basically a depression and then moves it over Bermuda and then out to sea. Of course, Sally is the big monster that both the European and the GFS are seeing. Let's go to the GFS parallel. This is the new GFS, so a little bit different parameters here. Paulette, Renee, Sally, Teddy, Vicky coming off. Notice, what do we have here on the GFS parallel? A very strong Sally. Now it takes it east. It takes Sally east of Bermuda, but that is now the third major model that is showing Sally, Sally really developing. Once again, with the GFS parallel, that's Renee, out to sea, fish storm. Here is Paulette. Nothing really going on with Paulette at this point. It's just a depression, maybe even less than a depression, just a tropical wave. You have Sally. There's Teddy back here. Vicky coming off. All right. So far, your GFS parallel, and your European model really developed Sally. Really developed Sally. Let's go look at the GM, and let's see what the GM does. Paulette, Renee, Sally, with Teddy coming off. Once again, not much development whatsoever with Paulette. Renee's a fish storm, and it doesn't really develop Sally, and it moves it in lockstep. Moves Sally in lockstep with Paulette, Renee, and Sally all going lockstep together with Teddy, and then Vicky would be coming up also. Notice on invest, not much develop on the invest off the East Coast. Don't see much else going on. The GM is pretty quiet. Does try to bring this low in out of the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico, but that's at 120 hours out. We'll see if more runs show that. I always like to look at the Japanese model too, because the Japanese model, it only goes out 72 hours, but the Japanese model is really good about sniffing out storms and pretty decent on positioning also. So Paulette, Renee, Sally, Teddy. So it even shows Teddy coming off of Africa. So the wave train is hitting that invest. Nothing really happening with it right there. So Paulette, Renee, and then Sally. Notice with the Japanese model, it keeps Paulette at a lower longitude. So be interested to see if that plays out over the 72 hours. All right, that is my tropical update for Tuesday. We will definitely keep a watch on Paulette. We will keep a watch on Renee. And we're definitely going to have to keep a watch out on Sally, because major models are loving Sally right now. It's a long way down the road. So we'll have to see what plays out. But when most of your major models are seeing a good system and a good system coming off Africa and keeping a low longitude, you have to pay attention. We'll see what the next couple of runs say, but I definitely want to keep Paulette and Sally on our watch list for the East Coast and Florida and the Caribbean. We'll have to see what plays out. Too early to tell, but we'll definitely have to keep a watch out and make sure that we are paying attention to what the models are hinting at. They're not putting it in concrete. They're just kind of hinting. They're telling you, hey, look, watch out for this one. This one's going to pack a punch. All right. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you watching. Make sure to hit subscribe. Make sure to ring that bell. And make sure that you're one of the first notified whenever these videos come out. Remember, no hype, just the weather as it's presented to us. Have a good day. Bye.